With the emergence of stores like Steam or GOG, the number of games developed by small teams has also increased. A lot of them have been released over the past few years. Therefore, when compiling this list, we had a large choice, maybe even too much. So, what is the list of the best indie games puzzles, quests, and even top-down action-adventure games? There are projects for every taste. And believe me, you will want to play everything. Let's get started. Disco Elysium. Perhaps Disco Elysium is the best indie game of 2019. In the role of a badly bruised detective who drank all night until he lost his memory, you immediately have to investigate a terrible murder. Completely devoid of traditional combat, Disco Elysium forces you to fight with your own mind to become the detective you want, and then use this broken personality to extract evidence from suspects. But this would hardly have worked without phenomenal execution, and in this regard, Disco Elysium is simply an incomparable RPG. Any interaction is filled with countless branches of dialogue, and each of them is simply filled to the brim with personality. This is what makes the game so special. Twisting Art is an evocative and tension-packed rotating puzzle. A beautiful handcrafted art collection has been ruined, and you are the only one who can fix it. Time is ticking, and more than 100 works of art are waiting for your help. Rotating works of warped art that are offered to the player as a challenge are the foundation of this game's gameplay. You must utilize your skills of observation and aesthetics to correct the twisted and bent image in front of you. The difficulty arises, though, when you discover that these pictures are abstract, difficult to understand images, even when they have been solved. Your capacity to use your imagination and notice things that are hidden from view will both be put to the test in this game. Celeste. This touching ascent has become not only one of the best indie games of the past few years, but also the game of 2018 on PC, according to some publications. With simple and precise controls, Celeste is simply a great, challenging platformer, and the story takes the genre to a new level. You play as a girl named Madeline, who decided to conquer the icy mountain Celeste, reaching its top. Making your way through the difficult levels of Celeste will have to die countless times, but the quick respawn and thoughtful words of encouragement after each death keep the game addictive even when things get tough. And if the complex gameplay of Celeste puts you off, don't worry either. There is a help mode where you can turn on a wide variety of options that make the gameplay easier, so you can enjoy the story regardless of your skill level. Into the Breach is not only one of the best indie games, but also one of the best strategy games of 2018. This is a turn-based indie strategy game from Subset Games where you control giant mechs as you try to protect human civilization from bug-like creatures called Vek that have bred underground. The battlefield here is a tight 8x8 grid, and you'll have to carefully consider your approach to combat and change tactics regularly. Enemies can be blocked, destroyed, and moved around the cells. So in a desperate attempt to save humanity, you will have many opportunities. Each randomly generated level requires a new tactic, and the realization that the Vex are easier to hold than to destroy only makes this strategic puzzle more difficult. Dead Cells is a relentless action platformer where death comes quickly and often. It's a curious interweaving of different genres, but it's best described as Roguevania, a combination of interconnected locations and unforgiving combat. This is a bloody and neon-colored beat-em-up in which you have to explore dark dungeons and creepy towers, where there is simply nowhere to save and the enemies are brutal and deadly. Dead Cells is a tough nut to crack, but you'll keep coming back to it with fast-paced action and a variety of upgrades that persist even in death, allowing you to gradually progress with each new game. The splatter of blood flying from your enemies from your blows looks simply amazing, and bursting at full speed through locations full of monsters is just insanely fun. Hades is considered not only the best indie game of 2020, but also the game of the year in general. Coming out of early access, she gained unprecedented popularity, obviously for a reason. This is a Bajal based on ancient Greek myths and gods. We will play as Zagreus, the prince of the underworld, who, like a teenager, escapes from the supervision of his father Hades through a window in his chambers and goes to the outside world, on the way to which hellish opponents and bosses await him. An excellent plot, high replayability, humor, a combat system, the theme of ancient Greek myths twisted to the maximum. These and other features helped Hades become one of the best. Untitled Goose Game is a hybrid of puzzle and joke game where you play as a goose with a very simple goal: to cause a big mayhem in a quiet English village. First, you terrorize a farmer and steal his crops, radio and keys for your party. And then you bully a little boy by tying his shoelaces, stealing his glasses, and scaring him in a phone booth. There's plenty to do at every location in this village, not to mention a lot more power-ups and hidden quests to harass the inhabitants of this pastoral rural idyll for hours before the end credits. Assignments gradually become more nebulous, forcing you to experiment with a whole palette of everyday atrocities until you find the right sequence of actions to ruin your victim's day. For example, if you steal a gardener's radio while he is playing music, it will only attract him to your trophy cage, so the correct solution is to toss him in the pond before listing your prey. With great animation and a primitive low-poly aesthetic, Untitled Goose Game is a joy to play even if you're stuck on a tricky puzzle game. It's the gold standard of grumpy goose simulator, whether you're diving into a twisted slipper theft story or just roaming the neighborhood and chuckling at passersby. The Witness. In a sense, Jonathan Blow can be called a pioneer who started the boom of indie games. After all, almost 10 years ago, he took part in the creation of Braid. His next project, The Witness, is a completely new type of puzzle. Here you have a huge island at your disposal, studying which you will get acquainted with the plot and features of this world. In just 2 games, The Witness and Braid, Jonathan Blow clearly demonstrated how indies have changed. In The Witness, the gameplay is puzzle solving. Their main feature is that they do not have any general solution algorithm. Each adds new rules that complicate the process. Another feature of The Witness is that it lacks tutorials and hints. You will have to look for solutions on your own. To do this, you first have to understand the essence of the first puzzle and then apply the knowledge gained to complete the next one. By the way, the lack of training is another feature of games from Jonathan Blow. Rocket League. It should have been obvious from the very beginning that football and cars are the perfect mix to create one of the best indie games. And don't try to point out Psyonix's other failed attempts at something like this right now, like the supersonic, acrobatic, rocket-powered battle cars. Despite the fact that these projects contradict what we said just above, Rocket League outshines them all. The game has 2 teams that drive cars and score goals. Therefore, in the process, you will also have to make sure that the balls bouncing off the bumper do not hit your goal. Perhaps the reason why Rocket League has become so popular is that there is no special equipment, special skills, and different classes. All you do is just drive the car, in the process trying to develop some tactics to win. Not sure if the chosen strategy really works. Then turn to special guides for help. Having learned a couple of tricks, you will be able to skillfully handle the ball and score goals much more efficiently. Not to mention management, having mastered the basics of which you will learn the game from a new perspective. Inside. Studio Playdead is in no hurry to say goodbye to its iconic monochrome game Limbo. With the release of Inside, she showed how you can change the original idea and make it even more interesting. The pale palette does not look as bright as the black and white tones in Limbo. But in general, the surrounding world seems much deeper, more detailed. Lighting also plays an important role. Objects that are not in the field of view disappear almost immediately, what adds charm to Inside. It is difficult to see any emotions on the face of the protagonist. But when he runs away from a pack of dogs or lands on the ground from a high height, his screams and groans are much more expressive than those of the protagonists of other games. Not to mention the agonizing emotions that you will experience when strange people in masks try to drown him. Horror, as well as the atmosphere of mystery, are important components of Inside. As you progress, you will get to know the world better. The puzzles will become even more difficult. Over time, you will begin to wonder, why do corpses come to life, and how can you use it? As far as the plot is concerned, the form of narration here is very unusual. Therefore, you will have to deal with everything on your own. Gradually, you will learn new details about the gloomy world, the plot. The ending will not leave you indifferent either. It is considered one of the most interesting, intriguing, and widely discussed, which everyone understands in their own way. In Hypnospace Outlaw, your job is to keep order on the internet. You'll spend hours digging through Bebo-like social media profiles, fan sites, and forums, banning users for anything from harassment to copyright infringement. Anyone who remembers the carefree days of the internet will be able to immerse themselves in nostalgia, looking at low-resolution tutorial videos, a lot of pop-ups, and a cluttered desktop with a bunch of GIFs. But Hypnospace Outlaw is much more than a journey into the culture of the World Wide Web in the 90s. You will not even notice how the game turns into a neo-noir thriller about the dangers of total control and censorship, and this theme is reflected in the gameplay. The game doesn't hold your hand as you try to solve its puzzles, and the thoughtful storytelling and healthy humor will keep you hooked until the very end. Hypnospace Outlaw is incredibly good at pulling you into its surreal interpretation of the internet, like it's actually 1999, and you can easily lose a couple of hours reading teen dramas that you are completely indifferent to, or customizing your desktop with all this immense tons of GIFs, wallpapers, and virtual pets. Firewatch is an action-adventure game in which you control a lookout for one of the fire towers in the Shoshone National Forest of Wyoming in 1989. You have to look after the territory of the park, and in one of the tasks, you will have to deal with teenagers swimming in the lake. The game is characterized by a slow pace of narration. Therefore, in the course of the passage, Henry will have time to think about his past more than once. Actually, this is exactly how the acquaintance with the plot of Firewatch will take place. This is a story about the problems in the life of one single person, not the whole galaxy. But this does not prevent you from empathizing with the main character. You will learn the details of Henry's life thanks to his communication on the radio with the boss Delilah. And only her voice keeps Henry from complete isolation. She will issue tasks and sometimes just ask how you are doing. Every time you complete any mission, you will realize that Firewatch has both comedy and drama. This is a story about how much we can give and lose. Oxenfree is great in every way, but when it comes to dialogue, it is an order of magnitude superior to other popular indie games and confidently claims to be the best. The project was created by Telltale and Disney alumni. The teen drama features a natural dialogue system, well-written lines, and other phrases that the main characters exchange among themselves. It's really fun to listen to them, and while you choose a suitable replica, the game is not paused. Instead, at the beginning, you can choose the action that Alex will take while you think about what to answer. Or refuse the offer and just remain silent, listening to your friends who will continue to talk without your participation. The game is somewhat similar to the series The X-Files, only with the participation of teenagers. If at first the story resembles a typical horror movie, then after a few minutes you will realize that everything is much more complicated. As you progress through the game, you will have to explore the world and solve puzzles. By the way, Oxenfree has several endings. And if you want to get to know the main characters better, understand their motives, then one passage will obviously not be enough. Hotline Miami. A dark indie top-down action game that transforms the battles from the first GTA into true art. Hotline Miami is a brutal neon shooter that features extreme violence and a surreal storyline. Every day you get a call from a mysterious caller who explicitly asks you to clear the building of the bad guys. You will have to literally make your way through each room, killing everyone who gets in your way. To do this, you can use melee weapons, rifles, pistols. Fail to complete the mission the first time. Then press the restart button and start all over from the beginning. Trust us, you will have to do this more than once. You will soon realize that you are the epitome of everything that is usually inherent in anti-heroes. You swing open the doors, breaking the noses of the thugs, shoot from a shotgun right in the face, throw the bouncers from one corner of the room to another, destroying everything along the way. In other words, arrange a real massacre. Like the neon films with Ryan Gosling, Hotline Miami 2 is not much better than the first part. Therefore, acquaintance with the series is better to start with the original game. Stardew Valley. Despite the fact that Harvest Moon is a Nintendo console exclusive, there are a huge number of PC gamers who are not indifferent to it. This is partly why Stardew Valley has become so popular. This is a farming simulator with RPG elements, which has absorbed all the best from Harvest Moon and added a couple of its own advantages to it. Stardew Valley begins with the protagonist inheriting an abandoned farm in the fictional Stardew Valley. At first, you will be exclusively engaged in planting new plants and selling them, but over time, your opportunities will only grow. In addition, soon after the start, you will be able to explore the world around the game. The fact that the farm needs to be constantly monitored is rather not tiring, but rather relaxing. This is the perfect game for those who want to relax after a hard day's work. In addition, Stardew Valley has a co-op mode and a huge number of mods available for download. This is an unforgettable adventure for all those who crave rural peace. In the game Gone Home, the main character returns home after a year of living abroad. Upon arrival, you find that the house is empty and no one is waiting for you. You have to figure out what happened here and where everything went. To do this, you will have to study in detail each room and the things left behind, listen to the audio cassettes scattered around the house. It's a voyeuristic journey that you can't enjoy watching Let's Play or streaming on Twitch. Instead of watching someone else's game, it's more fun to play it yourself and become part of the story. All in order to get acquainted with the life of 3 interconnected generations. The gameplay is pretty simple. You will wander around the house, study the things left by the tenants, and learn the details of family life literally bit by bit. The game touches on issues such as parenting and depression. By the end, you will realize that in the end you received a much more interesting revelation, something that you were counting on at the very beginning. What Remains of Edith Finch. Speaking of huge abandoned mansions, Studio Giant Sparrow, who developed the console exclusive The Unfinished Swan, has prepared another mystery for us. This time, the main action takes place in the state of Washington. What Remains of Edith Finch has a lot in common with games like Gone Home and Firewatch. But at the same time, there are new, unique ideas here, thanks to which you can look at the genre that is popular today from a different angle. Not to mention the insanely entertaining storyline. What Remains of Edith Finch is a collection of different stories about the Finch family. And as one of its members, a girl named Edith, you return to the family mansion to unravel the mystery of the curse. If you believe the rumors, then this is the reason for the death of your relatives. The game tells the story of several generations and touches on serious topics, such as depression, weaving them into the gameplay in an unusual way. And be sure that after passing you will be impressed. Spelunky. When roguelikes first began to appear, few games could boast the same merits as Spelunky. Outwardly, she strongly resembles Mario, although due to the whip weapon that is popular here, it would be more logical to compare her with the Indiana Jones films or the Castlevania game. You are waiting for procedurally generated caves with approximately the same ratio of dangers and treasures. Over time, you will find the perfect balance between collecting as many gems as possible and not being killed by a huge spider or boulder that has landed on top of you. If this happens, then you can still try to get these treasures. Even dying, you will still learn something new and then use the knowledge gained in the next attempts. If you're lucky, on your way, you will meet a merchant from whom you can buy everything you need, and then go on a treasure hunt again. Undertale. In traditional RPGs, you almost always start your story by appearing in a small town or village. Only after passing a little training and getting to know the inhabitants, you can start pumping the selected character. If we say that almost all the problems that you will encounter in the process of passing can be dealt with weapons or magic, then we will not be mistaken either. But in Undertale, killing is a last resort, just like in real life. In this amazing 16-bit indie RPG, you can subdue, calm down, and even flirt with your enemies. How you deal with adversity will affect how other characters treat you. If you decide to leave the enemy alive, then in the future you can see him again, and maybe you can even make friends. If you still prefer to kill someone, then this decision will be fair. You control a child who got into a world filled with monsters and is now trying to escape from it. An incredibly exciting adventure awaits you with a detailed plot, unforgettable characters, and an excellent soundtrack. To be continued. If your favorite game is not included in this list, write in the comments. Thanks for watching. Join this channel to get access to perks. Subscribe, watch our other videos, press thumbs up, turn on notifications, and you will always be aware of what to play today.